Um, I got really interested in music that was kind of like making like sonic landscapes. So Tom Waits was like an early one for me. And I really kind of like that sort of classic middle period of like swordfish trombones and uh, Frank's Wild Years and Rain Dogs. Um, but just also, I went through the whole, like 90s grunge kind of period and stuff like that. And always was kind of interested in just where things kind of walked up to the edge of noise.
This is Rob Ruckus.
Hey, this is Kate Clover.
Hey guys, it's Nick Collins here from The Effect and Better Strangers.
Hi, my name is Madeline Rose.
Hey, it's Ben McKelvey.
It's Tim Howard here from Mike and the Mechanics.
Hello, I'm Amanda Lehman.
I'm Billy Harvey.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Casey Sampson from the band Twist Stop.
Hey, it's Tony from Fastball.
Hello, everybody. My name is Isaiah Mitchell.
Hey guys, it's Matt here from the White Lakes.
You're listening to Almost Famous Magazine.
Come join us for this interview. Check it out, Almost Famous Magazine.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Hang right here on Almost Famous Magazine. Thank you to everyone who keeps coming back for these great hangs with amazing artists from around the world. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell, share this with your friends. You know what to do. I don't need to give you instructions, but we really appreciate when you do it. Today is going to be a great hang. We're hanging with Loren Davie and Blitz, the Toronto indie rock band The Lightning Struck, whose latest album is titled Century Storm. Now, I got to tell you, there's 12 tracks that were released as this album, but they recorded 17. So I'm going to hopefully find out if maybe there's a special edition or something else going on with those other tracks today. We'll have to talk about that. They curated it down to the 12 that are the most cohesive, uncompromising version of their vision. Say that five times fast. Grounded in raw instrumentation. They're great musicians, sharp songwriting. It's a portrait of a band that is defining their identity with a pretty wide sonic reach. I mean, I've got my ideas of who they kind of sound similar to or where they're pulling their influences from, but we're going to get to know them and get to talk about that today. So, Loren and Blitz, welcome to The Hang. Great to have you.
Thanks.
Hi.
Great to be here.
Yeah. We start these episodes really getting to know the people we're hanging with because I've never met you before. And I'm like, we're sitting here having a beer. I want to get to know you. So, Loren, I'll let you go first. And here's the question I start out with. Did you find music or did music find you? And what's your musical origin story that got you here today?
First of all, you're making me want a beer. I have a musical family. My mom's side of the family is like generations and generations of musicians, and there's like about 10 people floating around there that are musicians. So I just kind of grew up with it. I have some really embarrassing early influences. My mom got the Hooked on Classics album, and I played it over and over and over again, just like Beethoven's Fifth as a little tag with a underneath it. And then just I did high school stuff, just incessantly band and choir and all that kind of thing. And the last couple of years of high school, I kind of, every time I had a free moment, I would just lock myself in one of those little tiny practice rooms with a piano in it. I wouldn't come out. And then when I hit college, I met folks like Blitz who, started to introduce me to less embarrassing influences. And it just kind of went from there. There was, bands in the 90s here in Toronto that I was in, and right up to the point that I kind of went away to New York. So that was the early part of it. It's just there's never really been a moment without music for me.
That's great. So, Hooked on Classics. Funny you should mention that. I just saw that is actually making, I think, the social media rounds. Somebody unearthed the Hooked on Classics commercial. I just saw that today, as a matter of fact. It's funny that you mentioned that.
It's a soundtrack of my childhood.
Yeah, I hear you for sure. I've been there. Who were some of those other influences, though, that really kind of stuck with you and started to help mold your interest in creativity around making sound?
I got really interested in music that was kind of like making like sonic landscapes. So Tom Waits was like an early one for me. And I really kind of like that sort of classic middle period of like sort of fish trombones and uh, Frank's Wild Years and Rain Dogs. Um, but just also, I went through the whole, like 90s grunge kind of period and stuff like that. And always was kind of interested in just where things kind of walked up to the edge of noise. Didn't leap off the pier, but like, it was kind of like, oh, it's music that is, it's sort of up at the edge of becoming something else. So that's it's been that kind of influence over and over again. And then later on in New York, I what eventually became like the reference bands for Lightning Struck. I got really into Velvet Underground, and I got really into Television and really into Sonic Youth, and that was again kind of like it's almost noise, and that's sort of like the common thread for me.
There's definitely a CBGB's follow-up question in there somewhere, but I want to get Blitz to give us his musical background, because I spent a lot of time in New York after I went to university, so I know your influences very well. Blitz, what came first for you? The music? Did you find it, or did it find you?
So pretty much the opposite origin story to Loren. I think my family has no musicians in it. I had one great uncle who was really disreputable, and everybody else in the family hated him, and apparently he was a musician, but that's going back a ways. No, for me it was there's a British band called Hawkins, who are still around actually and are still doing really good records, which is amazing. And yeah, I was a big reader as a kid, and there's a British science fiction fantasy author called Michael Moorcock who co-wrote a science fiction book with the band Hawkwind as the heroes. And I read that as a book. I had no idea that it was based on a real band. I was just like, this is a cool, weird science fiction book. And then I was mentioning it to a friend of mine. This is when I'm like 12 or something. And he was like, oh, that's that Hawkwind band. My older brother has a bunch of their records. And that made me a Hawkwind, made me a music fan, essentially, because I grew to love Hawkwind. And then I was writing really terrible sword and sorcery lyrics, and I wanted to have them put to music. Like, I wanted a band to do them, and I wanted to have some say over what would happen in them. And so I asked my friend John Anderson, wherever he is, John Pearson, I'm sorry, John Anderson was a different friend. John Pearson, and he said the easiest instrument was bass, so I started playing bass. So that's one half of the origin story is basically being a reader, being into science fiction, getting into Hawkwind, wanting to do space rock. The other half of it has to do with not Toronto, but Guelph area band. So Guelph is a little cottage country town not too far from Toronto, called the Nihilist Spasm Band. We're going back to like 1982, 1983. I don't know. I won't venture to guess whether or not you were conscious at that time, but definitely if you were growing up I grew up in a place called North York, which is like a suburb city of Toronto, sort of old school. Like, it was big on Rush. It was big on, all the metal, like the metalhead bands kind of thing. And there was this headspace that if you weren't a great musician right from the start, or didn't, as Loren does, come from a musical family, you had no business making music. And there was this, I was working in the library at the time, and they had a record by this band called the Nihilist Spasm Band, which was a weird ass underground, like noise. Like they've been going since the 60s. They've made a point of never learning how to play music. And they just put out records of sort of fairly skronky atonal noise. This is where I differ again from Loren. He came up to the edge of the noise stuff. I fell right in. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, so I'm like 14 or whatever it is, and I'm shelving records in the library, and I see the Nihilist Spasm Band album. And you're 14. Nihilist is an important word for you. So I took it home and I put it on, and I was like, damn, I can do this. These guys have an album out. It's in the library, so it's legit. And this is terrible crap. I've grown to love it, but as a 14-year-old, it was just empowering. I was just like, okay, you don't have to be, Geddy Lee to play in a band kind of thing. So I think that's the real origins. And then, starting when I was like 14 or 15, started getting majorly into the Toronto punk rock and hardcore scene, or just punk rock and hardcore generally, and taking part in the scene there. So that was not so much hardcore, but a lot of punk rock playing. And then becoming a Deadhead was huge with that. And a whole bunch of things, but I think it basically goes back to those two things. One, finding out about Hawkwind and space rock, and two, finding out about the Nihilist Spasm band and how you can do noise and still put a record out.
Well, I mean, it's the answer to your question. Was I conscious at that point? First of all, I noted how good of a friend is John Anderson? Because is he the one from Yes?
No, he's a mutual. So I have Anderson and Pearson are extremely, I don't know in the States, but in Canada, they're extremely common white people names. And Loren and I, one of our friends is called John Anderson, who's not the guy from Yes. But John Pearson, I don't know that Loren has ever met. He was the friend of mine when I was a kid. But it's Pearson and Anderson are just like pretty interchangeable as far as I'm concerned. No offense to.
Although I will put out that weirdly Blitz and I did know each other as kids. Yeah. You were like what 15, I was 13 or 16 or 14 or something like that, and we met and then kind of fell out of touch with each other, disappeared. I found him in college, like I don't know, 5 years later or something like that, and I went up to him and I went, "Are you Michael Kaler?" And he was like, sort of, because he had switched his name to Blitz at that point, and it was like, oh no, I don't answer to that anymore.
I didn't.
Well,
I was really confused.
The other thing that'll show my age a little bit is, Blitz, given that you have this fascination with science fiction and then wanted to be a lyricist, I mean, I could just ask if you ever wanted to be Peter Gabriel. So yes, my age is old enough to know what happened with Genesis in the very early days.
Okay.
All the way to the fact that I used to live in Western New York, and I don't know if you know, his name is Robbie Cooper. Used to be in a band called Over the Garden Wall. It was a big Genesis cover band out of the Toronto area. So very, very familiar with that. And I you know what? Maybe I just look good for my age. So this band has been together. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I glanced at press releases, but I don't want to mimic them for sure. You guys have been together as a band now a few years, right? Was it about
22, I think?
That you got together?
Yeah, I think it was 22.
Yeah.
It was kind of like recently enough out of the pandemic that it was kind of a thing you thought of at the time. At least it was like Toronto was locked down really hard in the pandemic. It was, I think, one of the more than anywhere else in North America in some ways. So when we finally got out, we were able to actually show up in the same place again. It was substantial. I was like, I want to put a band together.
Now let's talk a little bit about, because there are more than just the two of you here. Let's give some love to the other people in the band. Tell us about who else is in the band.
Which drummer would you like to hear about?
No. Well, let's do Michael. Do the drummers list.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, the Lightning Strike is kind of an evolution. So Loren had a band called The Blue Shift way back in the day, science fiction rock band, and I was also in a band called Antimatter way back in the day, also science fiction rock band. We used to sort of play together, and so I feel like the Lightning Struck is kind of an evolution of out of The Blue Shift, with me kind of joining in. So the lead, or I don't know if you'd call him, lead, but you play as many leads as he's. I don't know, the other guitarist in Lightning Struck is a guy called Mike Milanetti, who was also the guitarist in The Blue Shift.
Yeah. And I mean, musically it has shifted somewhat. I try to get away from the proggier things that we did back in the day, Michael Milanetti, he also wrote a couple of songs on the album, plays guitar, plays steel guitar on some songs. And then we've had a bunch of drummers since then. Yes.
Which is
drummers are always unreliable. Let me tell you, man.
Yeah, actually, we've been kind of they've been good. Like I've been surprised at how competent they are. They just don't stick around for whatever reason. So, that's
So the drummer on the I'll tell one story here. The drummer on the album, the one that you're hearing on the recording, uh, great guy. Really liked him. Um, thought he did a great job in the album. It's fun to play with. At the end of the year, he went on vacation to where was it?
Georgia. Oh no,
No, it was Vietnam.
Vietnam. Yeah.
Vietnam. Yeah. Met a girl from Russia. Comes back and says, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go live in Georgia, the country, not the state. Meet my new girlfriend there. I'm gonna be a digital nomad, and lots of luck." It's like,
and they're still together, right? So that's not too bad.
Last I checked.
So,
but it's sort of like,
It's a win. I can't wait to hear about the latest Georgian prog rock band with a new drummer.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be here on the hang at some point. So you've got the album out. I want to talk a little bit about the I think it's the first single, is In Her Dreams. And as I understand it, I'm always open to correct me if I'm wrong, because other than my mother thinking I can't be wrong, I'm wrong on a regular basis. But it is a sci-fi inspired by Fritz Leiber's The Ship Sails at Midnight. What is it about that story that influenced you, Blitz? And is that where you do find most of your inspiration for your lyrics?
To answer the second question first, like in terms of lyrical inspiration, there's a few sources that I tend to go back to fairly regularly. One of them is sort of like Silver Age science fiction. One is an early Christian branch of belief called Gnosticism. One is a 20th century French art terrorism movement called Situationism. And one of them is sort of, and then there's also a lot from like American, like people like Jonathan Richman, like a sort of American down to earthiness. So there's sort of those four broad themes that come in. I really like the story. Like Fritz Leiber is one of my top 4 or 5 SF and fantasy authors. And that story I thought was just super, super powerful and interesting. It's not, the archetype is historical and huge, like the sort of semi-divine being coming down from the stars and making things better on Earth and then getting killed, and so presumably going back to the stars. Like, oh my God, that's Christianity. It's all over the place, mythologically and religiously. But I thought Lieber did a really good job of it in the story. It's really powerful because we never get the protagonist or the heroine's point of view. It's all told from the humans who sort of encounter her and realizing they're the stupid shit that they do. It was just a powerful, interesting story.
Now, is there an underlying theme for the entire album based on these stories, or these individual insights with each song?
Well, there's 3 songwriters, so like coordinating a single theme is hard, but I always kind of come back to this idea of just trying to, get along as a human in a world that is strange and sometimes hostile, but sometimes beautiful, and just trying to like make sense of that. That's certainly where I've come from. A lot of writing. It's also what I feel like in my interpretation of some of the other writers' songs. So like when we did the video for Inner Dreams, and I don't know, I think Blitz might disagree with this, but I felt like there was a sense of alienation inside the song, sort of hope and alienation juxtaposed, and that's sort of part of what we tried to capture in the video for that.
Cool. Now, if I'm new to your music, which a lot of people will be, obviously, is there one track? And I ask this question because singles are singles, but do you each feel that there's one track on the album that kind of encapsulates really who the band is? That if I was gonna needle drop down, start with one song? Is there one that stands out that way? What are your thoughts on that?
I usually suggest try Wrong Tree, which is the first song on the first side. It's the first song on the album. If you've just never heard the band before, that's a good starting place for where we are now. I don't know. Bliss, maybe you have a different pick.
I do, yeah, because I don't feel like Wrong Tree is so like. I don't feel like it's. I mean, it's a good song. I enjoy playing it. I'm not dissing it or nothing, but I don't think there's an overall vibe for the band. I feel like very strongly there's an overall vibe for each of the songwriters. Loren's songs are Loren songs, and I don't write anything like that. Loren doesn't write like I write. Neither of us write like Milanetti writes. Although Milanetti and Loren, I think, are a little bit closer than I am to anybody else. Yeah, I don't see an overall. I think it's more of a smorgasbord type thing, personally.
Yeah. So now, I mean, who tend to be your fans, right? Like, what genres do they tend to be into? Because you've got an amalgamation. And I'll be honest, I was listening today, and I'm like, I'm picking out. I felt some Cure vibes. I felt some prog rock vibes, right? Maybe not necessarily Genesis, more of almost a kind of a midpoint Marillion kind of vibe, a little bit.
Despite my best efforts, we can't get rid of the prog. I can't get rid of it. It just sticks to us.
I mean, if you got to sit in a space, you sit in a space. That's
but it's
okay. But I'm like, I got some of that stuff. But who are the kind of people who generally appreciate and like, wow, this is stuff that really speaks to me, genre wise?
I think, well, I mean, statistically, we do great with old men, but
and Brazilians, right?
It's funny. Yeah, we did good. Well, we should just do a Latin American tour. Is clearly the thing we should be doing. We did. I was talking to our PR guy, and he said it was really interesting. We did well with Music Press and with on Spotify playlists run by Music Press. We did not do so well with genre. And what it turned out was for people who are into music to start with and wanted to listen to the entire song and were trying to discover things like you would imagine people that write about music for a living or, for pleasure do that. We would do well with those. But for someone who just like, I just want to put on alternative rock and have it play in the background while I'm not paying attention to it, not as much traction. So I don't know what that says, but we're a band for people who like music.
Well, no, I mean, some people, you like music, you love music, you're into music, you're into a bunch of different things, but some people are just genre specific, right? And nowadays, I think, reaching as wide an audience as you possibly can to bring them in is a great challenge because there's a lot out there. Those were just some influences that I kind of felt that you guys had. I think anybody can, like what Blitz is saying, it's a little bit of a smorgasbord, right? Give it a sample, give it a try. It's go up and find the pieces that you really like. And what ends up happening is you and the others endure themselves to you as well.
We did try to turn up the 80s on Inner Dreams. That one track is sort of listening to it and go like, hey, let's put the chorusy 80s guitar on there and the big synth pads and stuff like that, and just try and nudge it in that direction a little more.
But I also do think like I want to push back a little bit on the prog thing, just because I feel like maybe that's more from Loren's headspace. But as a rhythm section, one of the things I like about the band is it's not a prog rhythm section going on. Like, not that I mean, the Yes, like Chris Squire is one of my heroes in terms of bass playing. Like, I have no problem with prog rhythm sections, but this band is not that. Like, I was freestyling my bass lines in the studio, like as we were recording. I think we were doing like 3 takes of each song. Like that's not a prog thing that folks do. And the drummer is not playing that. The drummer at that time is not playing like a proggy drummer. So I do feel like the prog is maybe on the some of the architecture of the songs, the sort of upper level type stuff. But I feel like in terms of how the songs are approached, for me, unless it's done really well, prog can have a cold kind of unliving feel to it a little bit. And I think that we have the reverse, if it like a bit of a chaotic frenzy going on. Yeah.
That is actually.
I'll agree with you that. I'll agree with that because that's one of the things that I noticed. Sorry, Loren, but I noticed that it was a little freer. It had a bit more soul to it than you get in because prog can be technically brilliant, but a little on the soulless side.
Yeah, and I feel like again, like there's people like Chris Squire or Geddy Lee who have soul coming out of their butt, if I can put it, like who. So it's not universal, but definitely when I hear prog, I think super tight, but not necessarily floppy or engaging, like in ways. And I feel like we are not to be not meant as a diss, but I feel like we are kind of floppy and engaging sometimes. Yeah,
I think one of the things that I've always tried to go for with this band that differentiates it from stuff in the past has been to try and find the groove for the songs. Like what makes a lightning struck song is there's some sort of groove you can hold on to, and the more proggy past has maybe let's do weird time signatures, but less of a foundation like that.
Well, I mean, and this is the first album you've done together, so
No, it's the second.
The second album. Oh, you've had two albums. Okay,
no, because it was the other drummer, so you paid no attention to it. That's what happened.
That's a new drummer every album.
I mean, look, you're not going to do the same thing from album to album. You're going to grow and change and evolve, and that's part of the process, right? I mean, so maybe some of that, we'll put it in air quotes, progginess evaporates down the line, but you never know. I mean, their Velvet Underground influence could come out, and you could go to 3 chords and dry lyrics. So you never know. So you've got 5 additional songs that were left off the album. What are you going to be doing with them? Is there something in the remainder of this year that people are going to get a chance to enjoy them?
Yes. So some of those are going to come out as singles. Some of them are going in the garbage. But there's a couple that I'm just going to announce this now because we're going to put out another single in July, and then probably something in the early fall. So a couple things to come out, throughout the rest of the year, and then hopefully we'll start to be able to pick up recording on what will come out next year, sometime later this year too.
Well, and that gets me to what's left, what's the rest of 2025 have in store for you? Any chance, just hypothetically, I don't come to Toronto in the winter. I have a cold. I have a strict. I live in Texas now. I'm from New York. I have a cold allergy. I break out just thinking about snow. But are people getting a chance to see you out and about in Toronto or playing anywhere in the Northeast?
We've just got the one gig booked right now, and it's not till September. We did the album release a few weeks back, and then our lost a drummer, or just not, but whatever. So that
it's like Spinal Tap here.
Yeah, like you were out on a walk with your drummer, and suddenly, poof.
This happens, yeah. So that's obviously slowed things down. I mean, I think there will be a gig in September, and then I very much doubt that there'll be anything between now and then.
Oh, I don't know if he still lives in Canada, but Attila Turi was a really great drummer back in the day. He played in that band with Robbie Cooper. And he might be available. I don't know.
All right. Well, we know everybody that lives in Canada, so we'll just look them up.
Well, look, it's this small adjacent state we have, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm very Canada friendly, guys. Don't worry about it. The people at Hawkins Cheesies know me by first name because I buy them and take them to the UK for Tim Hauer from Mike and the Mechanics whenever I go over because he's obsessed with them because he's from Canada. So very Canada friendly. Now, I've got a question we like to ask around here because we put this out, we tell your story, but there's always what if I could? Who could it be? Loren, if you got a chance to be in a studio with one person for one day and be creative, I don't care if it's music, lyrics, art, who would it be and why?
I've been trying to decide between two people. I think for living people. I think I'm going to go with Lee Ronaldo at the moment, which could easily be other people at a different time, but that's what I'm feeling at the second. Of the two Sonic Youth guitar players, I know Thurston gets more press, but I've really kind of enjoyed a lot of the Lee stuff that's come out of there, and uh, something about the way he plays is closer to the way I think anyway. So I'm just kind of like I'd like to just kind of mess around for a couple hours with Lee Ronaldo. I think that'd be fun.
And Blitz, how about you?
So, had you asked this question, 6 months ago, it would be Phil Lesh from the Dead, but he died, sadly. So yeah, I think at this point, the person who comes to mind is a guy called Jim Thomas, who plays guitar in my second favorite band in the world, called the Mermen, who are a California sort of psychedelic surf band that have been around forever that I freaking love. My one regret is that I really like their bass player, so I would want it to be a one-off thing. Like I wouldn't actually ever want to replace her in the Mermen, but I would like to do some music with Jim Thomas.
Awesome. Well, you never know. We've now put it out there. You just never know what might
Could
happen.
happen.
Now, look, everybody knows that I'm a big proponent of buying your music. Like, Spotify is nice, but there is no way they're financing their next album off of 32 cents, whether it's American or Canadian, that comes in from Spotify. Let's just call it what it is. You've got to go out and purchase their music. It's available in a ton of different places, including iTunes. I'm going to have all the links below for you to go out and buy their music. One more time, buy their music. Please support your bands. Go see them. Go see them when they play out. Buy tickets and merch. It's super important. It's so hard to survive as a musician these days. And the passion and love that people put into their music they deserve for you to purchase it. So,
Scott, what you really ought to do is buy it on vinyl from epijam.com, our label where we have it. So you can just go get yourself some vinyl. There's a digital download card in there if you want it digital. That's really the way to do it, just to hold it in your hands.
There's a whole hour-long conversation about vinyl that we can have, guys, because I am building my niece's vinyl collection, actually. But for sure, all those links will be below. Please go out and support the band. It's so important. I mean, they can't do without the support. That being said, we do love to share, because we're just hanging out, who people are listening to and what they're digging, because everybody deserves a little musical love these days. So, Loren, who are 2 or 3 artists or bands that, in your spare time that you're listening to that you really dig, and what is it that you love about them?
So my wife, who is a lot cooler than me,
This is true.
It's true. It's just a fact. Has recently introduced me to the Dream Syndicate, which was one of the Paisley Underground bands. And for me, they just fit right into that kind of like edgy guitar rock sound that I like, a la Television and stuff like that. So I've recently found the Days of Wine and Roses, and have just been spinning that a lot.
That's
sort of new to me. I'm always late to the party on this.
You're like 40 years late to the party. Oh my God.
Yeah. Fashionably late by several decades. That's right.
Nothing wrong with that, as long as you found them. Any others?
A couple years ago, I was fashionably late to Joy Division. I know it's embarrassing. I want to call out.
I just saw Peter Hook, so
I will call out one thing that none of your listeners will have ever heard of. So last year I produced a record for a Canadian artist named Ray Henderson, who is kind of like this John Prine, Johnny Cash kind of thing. He was like from up north and ex-Olympic boxer and stuff like that. So he has an album called Broke Down in Bala, and it's sort of country rootsy kind of stuff a la John Prine. So I think he's a really good songwriter.
All worthy to check out. Now Blitz, it's your turn. Now I can just tell by looking at you, you're a Swiftie. So, but she's gotten a lot of publicity in the last couple of years, so you don't have to focus on her as like what you're really listening to these days if you don't want to. I'm giving you the option.
Thanks. I'll take that option. That's I don't know. It's weird. Like a couple of days ago, there's this fairly obscure Toronto-based hardcore crossover. Like they were one of the early crossover bands bringing hardcore and metal together back in the mid '80s, called Sudden Impact. Who, I don't know why I love them so much, but seriously, like every 6 months, I'll put on their first record, No Rest from the Wicked, and I'll be like, yep, still love it. So that's one thing that I was listening to just a few days ago that I've been digging. Mike Watt, his various, the Ex-Minutemen, Porno for Pyros, Iggy and the Stooges, everybody else, bass player. I really, really like his bass sound and the way he approaches bass. And he did a homage to or cover of A Love Supreme and Meditations, the two Coltrane albums, a few years back with a bunch of jazzier type of guys that I just really love. And then there's this Swedish hippie band called Tradgrassokstenar. I don't know how to pronounce it. TRAD space GRAS space OCH space STENAR, who just did really long, soothing, like 2-3 chord slow jams where they just get together and play sort of hypnotic music for an extremely long time. And I for some reason I find that gorgeous. So yeah, those are the three I would bring up.
That's like 6 I've not heard of, and now I have some well, I've heard of one, but Joy Division is
I might have heard of that.
So it's at 4.
Maybe.
I'm not. It's late in the day. I'm not good at math. Let's just call it that. That's why I do this. Great insight, especially to what you love, and that you're not just dedicating all your time to Taylor. I mean, some people do. So, I'm
not sure how to respond to that, to be honest.
Look, legally, by the way, you're supposed to name Bryan Adams as one, but I'll let you off. Nobody in Canada tell the government that.
No, but can I just rant a little bit for a second? Like so Bryan Adams, because you're a New York guy or New York State guy, so the Goo Goo Dolls would be familiar with you, right? And so we know what happened with the.
Well, I'm familiar with them. They have no idea.
I mean, they would be a familiar name. So the Goo Goo Dolls, as you would know, were frickin' awesome until they discovered the power ballad. Right, so the first couple of Goo Goo Dolls records were amazing, and then they found "I Just Want You to Know Who I Am," whatever that, I forgot the name. They found the power ballad, and then after that they started to suck. Bryan Adams is kind of the Canadian equivalent of that. Like if you were growing up in the early '80s, as I was, the first album, singles would come on. Cuts like a knife. Yeah, Cuts Like a Knife and other songs like Cuts Like a Knife. Like there were a bunch of good songs that you wouldn't.
It was that Robin Hood movie is when things went.
He discovered the power ballad, right? Like it was the same thing for him. Like he was a great like little hard rocker, like a Canadian Tom Petty, and I don't mind Tom Petty. And then he found the power ballad, and then everything he did was sort of sappy and crappy. So I have no hate on for Bryan Adams.
So what is it like that? It's interesting because like. I loved Corey Hart's first 2 albums,
right?
And then he fell off a cliff. I mean, it's just kind of like, it kind of got vanilla. I mean, Sunglasses at Night, what he did with the Doppler effect that nobody had done before was amazing, right? I mean, it was actually well done, and it got your attention. And to me, the music doesn't always have to be perfectly created, but it has to be very interesting to me. So we could throw him in there, and what's going on? Because I mean, I look at a band like Sloan, and they kick ass every album. I'm the huge.
But they're later, right? Like Sloan. I mean, Sloan came up. When did Sloan start? Like very late '80s or something like that. So they were coming up in an indie punk rock scene where you could stay interesting, right? Like Corey Hart and Bryan Adams, and you can mention like Aldo Nova if that name rings any bells, or the Spoons or whoever, are coming up in a Canadian music industry that's very different from the one that Sloan had a decade later. And so Sloan were able to start out great and stay cool. Whereas I feel like it was probably an ongoing, continual fight for Bryan Adams not to suck. And eventually he lost that fight.
Well, he started making money, right? I mean, like the thing is, what is incredibly freeing and empowering and great for your art is to know you're never going to make a dime, and you're just going to actively bleed out. So and once you do that, it's like I'm going to do whatever I want, and then it'll sound better.
I think Loren's talking a little bit about himself there.
Guys, we could go on for hours about this stuff. I mean, we could talk about the Tragically Hip. I mean, there's so many artists that we could talk. Bare Naked Ladies, another. So,
Lowest to the low.
What is it about Canada? I don't know. But guys, this has been great. Now, everybody, look, we need lightning to strike for the lightning struck. So you've got to go out, support them, buy the album, please. You're gonna enjoy it. It's got my seal of approval, and for whatever that means. And you know what? Maybe the next album will be The Lightning Strikes Twice. Who knows? But Blitz, Loren, this has been a great opportunity to get to know you and really kind of just hang in and get to know the music. I look forward to what you got coming down the road. We will definitely have links below so that people can, what did I say? Buy your music, support the band. So
on vinyl.
It's on vinyl. The margins are better on vinyl. Okay, who pressed it? Well, that's a whole other conversation. But guys, this has been great. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us. It's been super fun.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. You know what? Next album comes out, we'll do it again, and maybe then we'll do we'll just prepare for top 10 Canadian artist failure list. I don't know. We'll find something to talk about. Everybody else, thanks so much for hanging with us. Keep up with us on our socials. Hit the button, subscribe, do all the things you should do to help support us as well. We love bringing this to you. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see everybody on the next hang.
Bye, you guys.
Thanks.